is the biggest threat, and I think lack of education in terms of, I mean, obviously there have been great strides and improvements in education in recent years, in the past few decades, but I still think the literacy rate isn't as high as it should be. Um, and I think that if in order we want everyone to understand the importance and significance of the world, of what's going on, of how we can improve and create a sustainable world, I think improving things like the literacy rate is absolutely important and paramount. I mean, the global literacy rate's around 90%, I think, or 85 to 90%. And which I think is which is obviously an increase from, like, I don't know, the 1800s and stuff. But I think in order for everyone to truly understand not only the world at which we live in, but the importance of things and issues such as climate change, I think getting that literacy rate up to 99%, which it probably is in HICs, then I think that would be the most important thing.
So there's two way I think there's two problems which we can encounter when talking about lack of education. One, sort of the cultural dispositions within countries of the LICs, where they have a culture around getting children to work, marrying them off early, and things like that. So they don't have the access to education. And others could also be political instability. So can we impose using the UN and grassroots campaigns? Can we impose, not impose, but sort of improve education in those areas when it's so unstable and things like war occurring? So I guess the first question is, where would you seek to tackle that first? Do you think it's more, like your common I mean, it is true, to be fair, like this is a sweeping statement, but your sub-Saharan African countries, they are in dire need of education increases. They're doing okay right now, but you still want to see a huge increase. Like, for example, this isn't sub-Saharan Africa, but Niger, they have the lowest literacy rate in the world. Though that area, we want to see an increase. So how would you try and tackle that? Do you think it's the common question, top down, bottom up? How would you sort of try and tackle that?
Before I give my answer whether I think a top down or bottom up solution would be best, do you want to first define what a top down, bottom up
Sure,
solution is?
sure. So top down basically means governments and big world organizations like the UN, the World Health Organization, those type of multinational, transnational sort of corporations and organizations coming in and basically influencing government and local regional procedures. That's what top down means. Bottom up is very much grassroots campaigners from the villages, from the locals, from local charities that essentially influence councils to make decisions and help sort of spread across the whole population in that area. So I would say sometimes on a small scale, it's better to have grassroots and bottom up, but on a larger scale, in terms of a cultural impact, it might be better to have top down. That's my opinion. What do you think about that?
I would think in terms, if we wanted to tackle the literacy rate in HICs, I think a bottom up solution would be best, because you already have a majority of a country and quite a large majority that can help in that regard. But I think if you want to tackle it from in countries which have a literacy rate of, I don't know, around 40, 50% or 60%, then I think a top down solution would be best. Really get a whole shift and everything in order to get what you said about the idea of a cultural shift. I think you need a top down solution in order to fix that for the long term.
Mm, mm. And then I guess sort of the next point, which is the final concluding point of this segment before we move to answering the inbox, would be when we talk about, getting that culture shift, the biggest threat I've seen to that is political instability. And it's a really weird conundrum because how do we solve that? How do we solve trying to get a top-down shift to improve the people's lives when the political instability, and I'm not going to use the word corruption because that's not always what it is, when the instability within a country doesn't allow you to do so, how the hell do we fix that?
I, I genuinely don't know.
Exactly.
But that's
Exactly.
something we can discuss on future podcasts with hopefully
Future
someone.
podcasts, not only hopefully we can get a geographer on or someone from the UN or I don't know, some organization. If we can do that and try and question this or not question them on this, but try and pick their brain and see what they think about it, that would be brilliant. But the reason why I asked that question is to point to you guys at home, guys and girls, obviously. I meant guys generally, but anyway, you people at home, it's really complex. It's really, really like difficult because we can have in theory the solution, but some of the biggest obstacles, it's sort of unfathomable about how to solve them. So, not to end it on a negative note, but when we talk about issues regarding the world we face today, a tip or sort of something to think about is one, think about the variation within the world. That's to do with overpopulation. But two, think about practically the real life obstacles and challenges that we face. For example, this could be it, corruption. It could be physical factors, for example, drought, famine, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, all of those, name it. Could be social factors, lack of education, as we said, which sort of encompasses it all. Could be economic factors, for example, the current recession we're going through globally, the cost of living crisis. You look at the large amounts of inequality within the UK, the north-south divide. There's so much practical factors in this. That's the one tip I would give to all of you when thinking about these issues. So I think we can conclude, Anirudh, that while overpopulation is an issue for certain countries, it's not the big global issue that we're talking about right now. The
Yeah,
main thing that we're suffering from, which I think I can agree with you on, is one, climate change, but that's underpinned by lack of education.